Hi, I'm Zach. Remember me? I'm the guy who gives you treats sometimes. This episode is sponsored by PetFlow. Did you know that PetFlow donates a bowl of food to a homeless pet for every single order that they ship? And they do this while making your life way more convenient by saving you dozens of trips to the store every year. Change the way you buy your pet's food. Go to petflow.com/ZachGeorge. That link's gonna be below. Choose your favorite brand of food and tell PetFlow how often you want it delivered. That's all there is to it. And you'll save $10 off your first 3 orders when you enter code ZACH30 at checkout. Click thumbs up for Rex and dogs everywhere. Make sure you're subscribed to my channel too, and get a copy of my best-selling book, Dog Training Revolution. Today's video isn't quite as clear-cut as you might think. See, neutering is the process of removing all or part of a dog's reproductive organs so that they can't reproduce. The term neuter actually applies to both sexes, while the term spay, that applies to females, and castrate to males. Neutering is the most common form of sexual sterilization for animals. Now, the question of whether or when to neuter a dog, well, it's gotten a lot more complicated than it used to be. There's no question that there's a huge overpopulation problem with pets here in the United States and in other places around the world. And here in America, at least, about half of dogs that enter shelters are euthanized. Neutering dogs is one way to guarantee that any individual dog won't contribute to this problem. And for that reason, it makes sense for shelters to neuter dogs who are being adopted out to unknown families with unknown levels of responsibility, for the overall welfare of more dogs everywhere. Let's be clear, this is not a dog problem. This is very much a people problem. It's our responsibility to make sure that our dogs are not roaming and having unplanned litters. The only people who should be breeding dogs are qualified, responsible, and ethical breeders. From a health perspective, though, there's still a lot we need to learn about both the positive and the negative effects of neutering your dog. The thing is, the science is far from nailed down on how neutering is going to affect dogs in the long run. But if you already have your pet and you're trying to decide whether or when to neuter them at all, more data is pointing to the fact that it might be better to wait until they reach physical maturity. Many studies have been attempted to look at the health risks and benefits of neutering a dog, and so far it looks like there's both risks and benefits to consider. So think about it. When you're neutering a dog, you're removing an entire organ. Now, most organs serve more than one function. So in the case of these reproductive organs, they secrete hormones, among other things. So while disabling the ability for a dog to reproduce, we could also be disrupting other biological processes. Neutering dogs appears to reduce or completely eliminate the risk for many diseases, including some cancers and infections, which could be fatal. For example, since the uterus and ovaries are removed in a traditional spay, spayed females are not at risk for pyometra, a common life-threatening infection of the uterus, or uterine or ovarian cancers. Similarly, neutered males are prevented from ever developing testicular cancer because, well, they don't have testicles. However, other studies from the Journal of the American Veterinary Medical Association have linked neutering with increased risk of other types of cancers and diseases, including bone and blood vessel cancers, ligament injuries, hip dysplasia, and cognitive impairment. Neutering does seem to help the overpopulation problem that we have, but it may or may not have long-term health effects on individual dogs. It seems that all of this research is pointing out how much we actually don't know about this topic more than what we do know. So how does neutering affect your dog behaviorally speaking? I mean, does it calm them down, keep them from running away, or help with potty accidents? From a behavior perspective, results so far are ambiguous on both sides of the fence when it comes to behavior changes after neutering. The way a dog behaves is a combination of their genetics, their overall life experience, and their environment. And while neutering does seem to affect some behaviors, specifically those related to sex, there is nothing to suggest that it will dramatically change their overall personality or behavior. Neutering is not a magic answer. If you want to resolve behavioral issues, you're going to have to really focus on training. That said, a study from the UC Davis Veterinary Medical Teaching Hospital found that after being neutered, many male dogs show a reduction in roaming, marking, and mounting behavior specifically. But neutering your dog in and of itself isn't going to keep your dog from running away or having accidents in the house. It's up to you to teach that. Even if you were to notice that your dog did seem more calm after being neutered, there are other factors that contribute far more greatly to a dog behaving more calmly and acceptably, like learning what's expected of them, maturing, and having more life experience. Overall, it's important to remember that most of these behavior and medical studies are done on household pets who have countless other factors in their lives, not the least of which are lifestyle, diet, and their individual genetics, and those could contribute to both medical and behavioral changes whether or not a dog is neutered. Studies about neutering dogs really need to be improved before we can begin to understand their long-term effects in more detail. Most of these studies, too, have small sample sizes, which could lead to statistically significant results where there aren't any with the broad population of dogs. And the way they calculate the results is often subject to a built-in selection bias. Of course, one of the huge benefits to having a dog that's neutered is it's easier to participate socially with your dog at places like dog parks or doggy daycares or playgroups. Because there's still so much to learn about the long-term effects, it's important that you do your own research. Talk to veterinary professionals you trust and draw your own conclusions about the best time, if any, to neuter your dog. Understand though, if you decide not to neuter your dog, you're also making the commitment that your dog is not going to be part of the huge pet overpopulation problem we have. And that's a huge commitment. This is an issue that so many people are really passionate about, and there are so many things to consider. But what do you think? Tell me in the comments below. Click thumbs up for Rex. Make sure you're subscribed to my channel, pick up a copy of my book. Thank you so much to our patrons on Patreon for supporting content like this. And don't forget to set up automatic pet food delivery to make your life easier. Enter code ZACH30 when you check out, and you'll get $10 off your first 3 orders at PetFlow. Link will be in the description. Thank you for joining me today, sir.